Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Cosmic Catchup. I'm Corri.
And I'm Dana. We're real-life sisters who said no thanks to the 9-to-5 grind and yes, please, to the stars, spirit, and soul-led living.
Around here, we're talking Ascension, astrology, human design, sound healing, and the messy magic of waking up.
So if you've ever thought, there's got to be more than this, you're our people. Two sisters, deep talks, whole lot of magic. Let's catch up. Hey, Corri.
Hello.
What's going on?
Well, I have a story for you today.
Okay, let's do it.
It's an embarrassing story.
I love those.
Why not kick off just to show our
humanness?
Our humanness.
Full-on humans.
So, for those that don't know, I go to Pilates almost every. I'm already laughing. I go to Pilates almost every single day.
It's gonna be good.
And for those who don't know, I go to Session, and they have these beds. They're called reformers, and so it's like a big square, and then in the middle there's a platform that you sit, lay.
It slides.
It slides. Okay, and underneath there's springs that attach. But otherwise, if the bed is all the way forward, it's open in the back. And if it's all the way back, it's open in the front. So I've been going for a few months, and I've been killing it. I feel really good about Pilates. Like, I know the things, and when they call them out, I'm good.
You know the moves.
So today, we are straddling the reformer.
So your legs are on the outside.
So our legs are on the outside.
Okay.
And you have to kind of squat down, and then you're holding these ropes, and you're sorry.
Oh dear.
God, I keep remembering it. So
what if I don't laugh? Like, you're thinking this is so funny, and what if it's not funny?
It's I'm laughing because I'm so embarrassed.
Okay.
It's not necessarily because it's funny. I'm mortified, candidly. So she's like, okay, let's move to the next thing. So I start to kind of release, and I go to sit down, and there's nothing there to sit. So I fall right through. And it's like a bathtub where I just hit the ground. My arms are up. My legs are up.
No.
My arm is bruised.
Oh, God.
And I'm sitting there, and good or bad, the instructor's right next to me. And she goes, oh, my God, this just happened to me, too. So don't feel bad. And I'm like,
that was sweet.
Can I crawl out? And everyone is facing the direction. So, like, everyone can see me. It's not like I could do it hidden. So she pulls me out, and I'm like, oh, God, just keep going. And I finished class, but I said, well, it's inevitable. I was gonna fall at some point, and I did.
This is why they make you sign a waiver when you sign up.
That's exactly right. So my husband asked if my arm or my ego was more bruised, and I think my ego is probably more bruised.
Yeah.
But she did tell me, she goes, you're gonna feel it tomorrow. You're gonna hurt. And I said, I already hurt. I got a big knot on my arm.
Oh my God. How painful.
I didn't hear anyone laughing, which was nice. But who knows if they walked out and said, oh, that poor girl.
I'm sure they walked out and said that. If I had seen it, I would probably be more, oh my God, is she okay?
You would have, and then you would have laughed
and
hysterically.
then I would have laughed. As soon as, like, watching, I'm imagining the instructor pulling you out of this
literally
bed.
had to pull me out of the floor.
The well of the bed. Oh,
yeah,
bless you.
And I think you would have said, thank God that was not me.
100%. Although I have had my own embarrassing fall stories. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how my day's going. How's your day? How's the energy? What's going on out there?
My day's okay. Yeah. So when this airs on June 11th, we have the full moon in Sagittarius. So that's, release energy. Full moons are a big release energy. And so anything related to Sagittarian themes is a beautiful thing to release to help boost that energy, which could include dogmatic beliefs. It can include any sort of limiting beliefs. We're talking just like allowing that need for freedom, in balance. We've got the moon, or the sun is in Gemini and the moon being in Sagittarius. So we're really kind of trying to balance that with our communications. So again, like not taking anything too personally. Usually with a full moon, it's also heightens emotions because the moon being tied to our emotions. So again, try not to like take anything too personally, especially if there's big emotions that day. So, and feeling a little spicy and a little fiery might be the case for some people.
Well, how appropriate we're talking about Ascension today,
Right?
then.
I think that is great.
Very fitting.
Very fitting. I do want to point out one other transit. This is going to be a show where we look at our notes a lot because it's a big topic. But
yes.
we do have another, and I'm not going into as all of the transits that happen every week, but I do want to call out, we have another big one that is from June 15th to June 18th. We have Jupiter, because it just moved into Cancer a couple days ago. So Jupiter and Saturn are squaring. And they're Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Aries. And this is kind of a more intense energy. Any square is going to be a bit of a challenge or a lesson we're trying to learn. And it often feels like a pressure point where maybe a decision has to be made or, we have to figure out how to move through it. So from this perspective, we've got the Cancer energy that is very nurturing and very self-care and very maybe family-oriented and a little bit more on the private life. And then you have Saturn in Aries, which is like form into action, kind of thing. So it's wanting to like take action and move forward when we're also trying to do some self-care at the same time. So there can be feelings of hesitation or really trying to develop trust in the unknown. So having a path and maybe not seeing where it's going, but trusting that can be the challenge that we're trying to work through. There can be feelings of stalling, like starts and stops. Don't worry, that will pass. It's just a moment to kind of do a gut check to say, okay, how do I feel about the direction I'm heading in? Or do I feel good or do I need to change directions? So that's going to be, several days of that kind of energy. But again, it too passes and we're just going to move through it with as much grace as we can.
Well, and I love the astrology because what it tells us is just be on the lookout.
Yeah, be on the lookout. And usually when we do that, it's not as stressful. It's not as hard. It's like, oh, I'm feeling stuff come up. I'm expecting to feel those things. So I'm going to plan my days to maybe not be around so many people or try to rest more during those days, try to relax a little bit more. So that's what it's really there for, is to help us, again, move through the energies a little bit more ease.
Yeah. I also appreciate the hearing people talk about the Schumann resonance, and that's been super helpful for me this week because they talk a lot about with the energy can cause what I like consciously Aaron calls it the grumblies, and couldn't be more true. And I know you and I both talked about that. We were both feeling very grumbly, especially on Monday. It's kind of been in waves a little bit for me. Like today, I've been so accident prone. I'm just trying to laugh, but there's parts of where I just want to get really mad.
And start the day over. I think you're like, can I do a restart, redo?
Yeah, I would like to redo it. But here we are. So that's what we're going to do. So we said today's topic was going to be Ascension. And that sounds very woo-woo, if you will. And the reason I say that is because maybe this is my own perspective, but we think about Jesus ascending. And so when people talk about ascension, there could be that automatic association between, well, Jesus ascended. How are we, what does that even mean? How are we ascending? So I thought I'd open it up there. We can just talk about what we think that term means or how we think about it.
Yeah, how we interpret that. Mm-hmm. And if you're in the spiritual community or the woo community, I'm sure you've heard a lot about it because it feels like everyone's talking about it, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're new to the woo and the spiritual, well, hopefully this gives you some kind of foundation if you start to explore more and you hear that term more often.
Yep.
So I would love from you, like, what does the word ascension, like humanity's ascension, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I look at it as it's not an ascending of the body per se, but it's really about consciousness and moving into a higher level of consciousness. And they use the term Christ consciousness is also used by a lot of those in the community. And it talks about really this higher level of, emotional wisdom versus, I think about moving from 3D to 5D. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. But really, this heart-centered living is the way I look at Ascension.
Yeah, that's great. To add to that, it's not about leaving Earth. You don't physically go anywhere. It is about a rise in frequency. And you mentioned consciousness. It's a rise in consciousness. It's a rise in your frequency. and a shift in your perspective. Not that, and when you change your perspective, as we've heard from Dr. Joe Dispenza and many others, that our thoughts are what create our reality. So when we can redirect our thoughts to be in gratitude, to be in a positive frame of mind, then that's what we're creating our reality around. So to me, it's living more, as you said, from that heart-centered space, more in your authenticity. And by doing so, you have now shifted your perspective, you've shifted your frequency, and now you're living in a 5D or ascended state. So yeah.
Agreed.
Very cool.
And it's not just the humans who are ascending. The planet is also ascending. And you can think about it a little bit like with a computer, after so many years, it's tired and you either get a new one or you upgrade it.
Yeah, the operating system's out of date, and so you have to upgrade.
And so Mother Earth, Gaia, the operating system is out of date and it's time for a change. So she is increasing and shifting her frequency. And so we need to shift with that frequency as well.
Yeah. And, I think we both believe that Gaia's already done it. Like, she's already ascended. And if you're hearing this, then you likely are ascending as well. We're a little bit behind her and trying to catch up. But again, if you're here with us, you're going to get there. Like, zero doubt, you're going to get there. We don't really have a choice at this point, because she said you're either on board or you're not. So if you're here, you're on board, you're going to make that. Whether it's a conscious choice or an unconscious choice, you are ascending.
And I would also say that people who are passing are also ascending, just not with their bodies. And so there's been a lot of, whether it's in the news or maybe in your own personal lives, you might be seeing or feeling people passing. I think we've been hearing more about it from friends that we know, people that have been ill or that are moving out of the body and just moving on.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the conversation has really been around, they didn't feel they could ascend in the body. And so they chose to leave the body and go ahead and pass on so that they could ascend spiritually. And so it's still a beautiful thing. So if you are struggling, maybe you've lost a loved one, know that they are also rising. Their frequency is rising through that spirit. And so everyone's moving to a higher vibration.
Everyone is. And it's important to recognize that our bodies, our human bodies, have a consciousness as well as our spirit consciousness, and they work together. So when you say those who have passed on, they're just ascending without their bodies, it wasn't their spirit that said, I can't do it, because their spirit is doing it. It was the human body, the body consciousness that said, yeah, this is a lot. Because if you are feeling, we're going to talk about the symptoms of ascension, it doesn't always feel very good in the body because we're being upgraded. And it's happening, I think, in a much more gentle way than I think initially expected by a lot of other channelers and psychics have been talking about this and prophesizing it for a long time. It's been a lot more gentle, I think, than originally thought. So even with that gentleness, it's still uncomfortable. So sometimes the body's like, yeah, this is just too much energy all at once. And cool, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk about some of the symptoms?
Yeah, I want to talk, before we do symptoms, can we talk about the difference between 3D, 4D, and 5D?
Sure.
Because I want to incorporate those terms more. And so I'm like, let's just define them.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So we live in a 3D, third dimension, third density planet or experience, reality, whatever you want to call it. So the third dimension is really based on polarity. It's the right versus wrong, dark versus light, good versus bad, us versus them. You got polarity. Time feels very linear. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. It's controlled through fear. There's a lot of top down, and everybody's in survival mode.
It's driven by ego, logic, more in the head.
Yeah, the story that I've made up for myself. So what's my title? What's my role? Like very rigid experience.
Yeah, and a lot of for lack of a better term, it's I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I see it, it must be real.
Correct. Yeah, well, I need proof.
I need proof.
So then from 3D, you shift into 4D, and 4D is really the bridge. And 4D can feel more like a little bit like chaos because you're starting to unwind some things. You can look at it like the awakening hallway or that awakening bridge. This is where lots of questioning. You start questioning everything. You start purging these old stories, purging aspects of the ego that aren't serving us. This is where time starts to bend a little bit, where you're like, it either drags out really long or like super fast. It just is not consistent.
I think you also start to recognize the things that you saw that you thought you could trust aren't necessarily what they appeared to be.
Yes.
So you start questioning a lot of the things that you were seeing to say, wait, is that actually true or real or right?
Well, and your intuition is activated. So you might start seeing things that are unbelievable. You're like, oh my God, did I really see that? Did I really know that? Really starts bringing that intuition online, as we talked about in a prior episode of kind of starting to see, like, you might think you're going a little crazy. You're not crazy. You're just waking up. So this is also where you start to play around with the idea of manifestation, but it's manifestation in its infancy form, where maybe you're having to write lists and working on it from it takes time to bring those manifestations into fruition. We get into 5D, and that is unity consciousness. So 3D polarity, 5D is unity consciousness. We are all one. We all come from the exact same place, and we are just having our own individual experiences, bringing all of that experience back to source and the oneness from the collective perspective. Time becomes fluid and multidimensional, which I love. So this is where like quantum physics is super heavily involved. If you need proof, you start looking at quantum physics for 5D. Creation flows through your intuition and your frequency. So this is where like 4D is when you start purging and having to do a lot of healing. And then you, not that you're ever done healing, but you get into that flow. 5D is where like, okay, I've purged a lot of that stuff. And now I am at a higher frequency. Manifestation becomes a lot easier and almost instantaneous in many cases. And you live from a more soul-aligned perspective in love and an inner knowing. I'm just going to be my authentic self. Anything to add?
I was going to, but you covered it.
I did? Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot of notes. I had to take a lot of notes with this. All right. So we covered the 3D and the 4D. 5D is just about being real. Like, how do you be your real self?
And that goes back to the authenticity and moving away from the ego, the fear, thinking about even in your job, that hierarchical structure. And it really is about self-empowerment and being who you are, truly, authentically who you are. And I think for me, when I think about when I was in corporate America, there were a multitude of sides to me. And in corporate America, I didn't let people see this side very rarely.
Me either. I had a persona that I brought to work, and I had a separate persona that was more my private and personal life.
Yep.
And now there, again, that polarity, that separation, now it's like, this is just me and this is who I am, and take it or leave it.
That's right. And I think that's an important piece as you're moving from 3D. Now, here's the thing too. You may straddle, and we straddled 3D and 5D.
You're bouncing in and out kind of all the time.
Right. So don't think that you're like here and all of a sudden you're here. You're not. And that's going to be very natural. And maybe now you've moved from 3D into 4D and you're 4D, 5D. But we are still living in a society that overall is still very 3D. So when you hear people say, oh, that's so 3D.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're talking about, is still these structures and top down. And so that's not going to disappear overnight, but it is disappearing.
It is crumbling, and we're going to talk about the signs of that as well. You can just look at the news and see the signs of it. But to your point, there is a lot of back and forth. There's days or moments when you're like, oh, I'm just vibing. I'm in the flow, as they say, quote unquote. That's a sign that you're in that 5D, is I'm in the flow. But we don't always stay in the flow. Our frequency can drop in and out because, hello, we're human. Like that's just part of this experience. And you can be living in the 3D world and still also be in the 5D spiritually. So I can be at my highest frequency and still be in traffic.
Yeah.
Still having to drive around and deal with people.
Still have a little road rage.
Still have a little road rage. We live in Texas. Nobody drives friendly in Texas.
Yeah.
Well, even though that's a slogan, drive text the friendly way or something like that. No, that's not really the Texas way. But with that, that's okay, because the 5D is more about my perception of my reality, my internal world, and how I'm operating through my internal world. It doesn't mean crummy stuff doesn't still happen. It doesn't mean that your flight doesn't get canceled. It doesn't mean that you still don't get stuck in a traffic jam. Those things can still happen, but you've shifted your perspective and your awareness to such a degree that you're like, okay, well, that just means I needed to slow down, or I didn't need to get to this place until a later time. It's just a shift in your perspective of the reality.
I think it's really more about self-awareness in you're frustrated, you're anxious, instead of just having those feelings and not knowing why, and you move through the day and you feel like that all day, you take a minute, you stop and you pause and say, okay, why am I feeling this? What's causing this? And you really try to self-evaluate, why is that coming through, be able to process that and purge it and move on, versus just letting it take over your day.
Yeah, and sitting and dwelling in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had an aha moment. This might have been a year or two ago, when I was like trying to go somewhere and everyone was driving so slow on the highway and I couldn't get around people. Like I was like, what is happening? Like, I need to get to my place, my appointment, whatever it is I was going to. And I was getting so frustrated and so angry. And I realized that I wasn't mad at these other people that I was kind of cussing out on the road. I was mad at myself because I left later. I didn't manage my time to factor in there could be traffic issues. And so I didn't get myself together. So I was like, I realized, oh, I'm mad at myself. I'm not mad at anyone else. And again, everyone else is a reflection of ourselves. This is that unity consciousness of 5D saying, I can't hate you and not, and love myself. I have to love myself, and then I can love everyone else. So in that moment, I was like, okay, I have to forgive myself for maybe not managing my time as effectively as I would have liked. And I'm not going to be angry at everybody else because it's not their fault, my choices, kind of thing. So that was a big aha moment again. So we're bouncing in and out of the 3D, 5D.
Yeah. And I want to call out, because I know just with my environment and when being laid off. So let's talk about being laid off. Another piece of moving from 3D to 5D is you have that job, which is 3D, but the 5D piece comes in where you're not driven by fear of, oh my gosh, I've got to find a job. I've got to find a job. I've got to find a job. What am I going to do if I don't find a job? And that anxiety and hustle mentality, you shift into, okay, well, what is my next step? I believe in divine timing. I believe that the right job is going to find me, and it's not about sitting around doing nothing, but maybe you're checking the job boards twice a week. It's not every day, and you're not feeling anxious, but a lot of it comes to trust. And so that's a big piece for 5D, is just knowing that you are cared for, you will be taken care of, the right thing will find you in the right timing, and it's having that belief that will happen.
100%. Yeah, it's sitting in the frequency of the right job, the right whatever, relationship, house, whatever it is you're working to manifest, the right people in your life. Like, they will come to you because you are in the frequency that is attracting that. It's, again, matching the frequency of the life or the person you want to be. So more and more I'm hearing from that manifestation perspective is it's not matching the frequency of the thing you want, but it's imagining the person you will be with that relationship, job, whatever it is, and then start being that person and automatically knowing, trusting that it's already real. Like, this is that multidimensionality. Like, I am just stepping into all the things, the life of my dreams. I'm just stepping into that because it's already done. It's already created for me. I am just now raising my frequency to be a match for that. And it comes to you. So you don't have to work so hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not about working hard anymore, people. This is about having fun, being your authentic self, living in alignment. That's the 5D world, not that I have to work really hard to get anywhere.
And that's a big part of the shift that's happening.
We're so excited because I can see it happening and experiencing it happening. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about those symptoms because I know our bodies are going through a lot.
Yeah, I think for me specifically, fatigue has been significant. Body aches and pains. Been doing a lot of shadow stuff has come up. So purging of that, working through that, and it's still constant. I think I want to go on the record too of saying that we have not mastered this by any means. No. So know that we are in it with everyone. We are also still going through this process and feeling all of these feelings. You could be having vivid dreams. Your intuition could really get strong. You could be having some really big hits.
Digestive issues. That's apparently my body's favorite one to go through. TMI, sorry. But I was like,
I wouldn't have known that.
Like nausea or other things that you might purge. Yeah, there's that. There's insomnia or waking up at odd hours. Not just like exhaustion. You might have gotten your normal amount of sleep every night, but you still wake up exhausted.
Yep.
Or you can be on the flip side and have very odd sleep patterns where you're experiencing insomnia or you're waking up at odd hours. All of that is part of those symptoms. I definitely also have those joint aches and pains, body aches and pains. It's almost like you could feel like you have the flu, but you don't have the flu.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
People are experiencing a lot of headaches, migraines. Even maybe you're not one who usually suffers migraines and suddenly you have one. That is a lot of the crown chakra and our third eye chakra opening up. All of our chakras are being activated and realigned. That can cause all kinds of physical ailments. When we talk about this, not to get too weird, but that's what you're here for. Our bodies are shifting from being carbon-based to crystalline-based. So that means that our organs are shifting in their makeup. Our DNA is coming online. We can talk about that too. But this idea of, we've traditionally known or really focused on from a scientific perspective are 2 strands of DNA. And then everything else they call junk. But really there's 10 more strands of DNA that they call them junk because they don't really know what they do. Well, guess what? They're part of the original human and
they're alien DNA.
Yeah. Well, we are a culmination of our extraterrestrial friends. And so this is where a lot of our spiritual gifts and intuition and telepathy and teleportation comes online. So these spiritual gifts are part of those additional strands of DNA that are really being activated right now. So again, don't freak out if your spiritual gifts suddenly come online. And it could be like you went and got a massage and then, oh my God, you're now hearing and seeing things.
It's a good thing we talked about intuition and the clairs, huh?
Yes, because that's what you can identify. You're ready for this. You're ready for this. We're going deep. We're going into the weird.
Yes.
And it's magic. It's magic.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
What else? Okay. Let's see. We talked about that stuff. Oh, I want to know, how has your life transformed since you were moving through this shift?
For me, it's really been about more self-awareness, compassion, forgiveness. Again, doing a lot of shadow work, knowing, you knew who I was years ago. I do feel like I'm a different person in the best way.
Yeah.
Because it really has been life-changing for me in the way I see the world, the way I see myself and those around me. I'm super excited. Overall, the shift in and of itself has been uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I have had fatigue and body aches and, like I said, shadow work coming up. I have had strong pings of intuition. Like there's some cool stuff that happens, but at the same time, it's like, the fatigue just never wants to leave, I feel like. And I did think that would be better after I left my job. No. I mean, I still have moments. Yeah. Now there are days I feel great, but there are times I feel like I could sleep all day still.
Yeah. And that's part of your projector profile a little bit too.
For sure.
But I want to know, because I've seen the changes in you for sure, but we're very close. How has this, from the perspective of your family and your relationship? Because we have people in relationships out here. So
you know
what has that been like?
I am very blessed that I have a very flexible husband in the sense of he thinks I'm absolutely crazy. He does. But he also goes along with my crazy.
Yeah.
So if I say something and we will have words about certain things, but then he's kind of like, okay, whatever.
He's
you
here
do
for
you.
it.
He's here
He's
for
here
it.
for it.
So I do believe that before we picked our lives, before we came down here, we made an agreement. This is what's going to happen.
We're going to do this
We're
together.
going to do this together. And he's like, cool. Okay, well, let's do it. And that's really, he just rolls with it. So I'm very grateful because I know people are not always as fortunate. And I think during this ascension, you're going to see people leaving jobs, leaving relationships, and leaving homes or places. Like that's going to happen. And I've already witnessed it with other friends where it might be one, two, or all three of those things are happening. And so that's not uncommon. Again, I think Mike agreed. He's along for this ride. So he's in it. My kids think I'm absolutely bonkers. So they don't really get involved with it. I think, they just roll their eyes. It feels nice though that we have each other. So at least when I'm saying words, you chime in. They won't say you're crazy. They'll just come back and say, Mom, you're nuts. But Aunt Dana apparently is completely normal.
We were out to dinner and I think it was just you, me, and Mike. And we were, it was our brunch after I left my job. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about stuff. And I think Mike might have said like, Corri, you're crazy or whatever. And then I was like, Mike, do you think I'm crazy too? And he's like, 100%. And I was like, yes.
It's a compliment.
It's a compliment. Please think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, 100% you're crazy. Yeah. But I would say that, yeah, he recognizes how much you've changed as well through this process.
He won't come out and say it. And I think there are people that actually do see changes in spouses or significant others and they can't deal with it. Yeah. So they end up breaking up. So again, I feel very, very fortunate. But it is kind of interesting because in my household, I am moving. I can feel myself moving in the ascension into the 5D. I know my family signed up to do it. They are not consciously, however, making efforts or inroads, right? I think a lot of it's unconscious.
I agree. I think a lot of it is unconscious. And when we talk about, as you're going through this awakening process, your vibration is rising, and not all the people in your life are also raising at the same rate, I will say. So I like thinking about it like if I'm up here and all the people are down here, but we're all kind of going up, around the same, like that's okay. Yep. Like those are probably people who are going to hang out in your life, but it's also okay for people to fall out of your life because maybe they're no longer a vibrational match. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. They're on their own timeline. They're on their own journey, which is perfectly acceptable. And while they might fall out of your life now, once they wake up or raise their frequency, they might pop back into your life again. So they may not be gone forever, or they might be gone forever. And that too is okay because it just means you're creating space to bring more of your own soul tribe together. People who match your frequency.
I think that's a little bit about the purging too. You can purge relationships for sure because you are trying to move at a rate that another person or people are not. And so you do have to be comfortable with letting that go. And there's a mourning, I think, in that, but recognizing, to Dana's point, it may not be forever, but you have to let go in order for both or all parties, to continue on their journey. And I think that's why you see with both relationships and jobs falling away because there's just not an alignment there anymore with the vibration that you're carrying.
Yeah, I definitely think I couldn't continue working in an environment that was not supportive of the vision of my life that I wanted to create. The environment was supportive of people in general, so I'm not knocking anything of that, but I couldn't live that way anymore as far as renting my time to some corporation, going and sitting in that beige cube in a beige building with no direct sunlight, under fluorescent lights, staring at a computer all day. That just was so inauthentic to who I am. I could, and I didn't, I think, fully realize that until I started going through this process. Of course, like I was on the hamster wheel and doing everything you're conditioned to do. And even after awakening, I was still doing that job. I just got to the point where it was so uncomfortable for me to be there. I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too out of alignment. And that's really when I knew it was okay to go. And it being in that 5D space of, I know I'm going to be taken care of. I know I'm going to be able to pay my bills and still live in my house and do fun things. And trusting that even though I don't have the full picture, I don't know where this is going to go. But that's exciting to me because I also believe I get to create that. So shifting the mindset of what if everything goes wrong? What if this doesn't work? To what if it does? Like, what if everything goes right? What if everything is fun? What if everything is easy?
What if it's more amazing than you ever could have imagined?
Oh, I totally believe that.
And I think too with companies, and again, this is not to say go out and quit your job.
No.
But
or that all companies are bad. We're not saying that either.
But if you're feeling a nudge, dig into that and understand, because a lot of the big corporations especially still lead by fear. It's a fear of, we have to make enough money, we have to please shareholders, we have to increase, and make money, and it really does comes down to money.
Yeah.
And money is a form of energy.
Mm-hmm. It's just energy.
So
it's not good or bad.
But when you place the fear with it, it lowers that vibration significantly. And so part of that too is, I think, to Dana's point, we just felt so uncomfortable because that vibration was so off from where we are trying to go. It was holding us back because we had to step into that for 8 to 9 hours a day and then try to find our vibration again coming home. And it was very yo-yo, and it wasn't conducive for us in order to move forward. So I would just say, if you're starting to feel the feels, dig into that more. And again, don't turn around tomorrow and quit your job, but try to understand, where is that coming from and how can you accommodate that frequency while still making a living or doing whatever it is you're doing. I think is very important, but recognize that you're going to be teeter-tottering a bit.
Yeah. And if you love your job, that's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's absolutely awesome. You might be there to be a bridge and to seed light into that space. So that's not a bad thing at all.
And that job could evolve into, again, really supporting humanity over the next few years. Because I think those that are not in the best and highest good of all, they are going to collapse.
Yeah, they will.
It will take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but recognize, is your company there doing good or not? And if not, can you find a company that does support humanity? Because they're the ones who'll stick around.
Exactly. I love it. All right. Let's start and shift over into, how do we know this is happening now? Like, we've talked about a little bit of the human symptoms that we're going through, but is there anything else in the environment to support Gaia's ascension, our ascension of human consciousness at this time? And I would say, yeah, there's a lot. Do you want to talk about the human design or astrology first?
Sure. I'll start with human design.
Yeah.
It's like when Ra, for lack of a better term, predicted all of this. I mean, it feels very spot on. So in human design, as you guys know, we just talked about human design. There are cycles, and it's geometry based, and so they are. I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically these cycles are determined by the nodes.
North and south nodes.
North and south nodes. Yeah, sorry.
So tied to astrology.
I'm speaking astrology lingo, and I forget not everybody knows that.
Tied to astrology, yes.
Yes. And so the system goes on approximately a 400-year cycle. It's like 412 years, I think. And we are actually at the tail end of a cycle that ends in 2027, or 1615 to 2026. So 2027 is officially the start of a new cycle. And so the cycles, as I said, they're based on the nodes. And each global cycle has programs human consciousness. So we talked about consciousness and frequency and vibration. And in human design, I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't, the neutrinos.
We didn't.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, there are neutrinos, which basically they're little itty minute particles that are constantly flowing, and they're mass. And so all of that energy that flows through them goes into humans, goes into Gaia, etc. And so as we're shifting into this new cycle, which is exactly what we talked about, it's moving into individual empowerment and more emotional awareness versus emotional reaction. It's about personal sovereignty. And we're shifting out of, much like we talked about, this community-based tribalism, big business. It's security through resources. So again, think about fear. Fear drives that security, the lack. It's all about mental material. And so that's really coming to an end. And so as we shift into this in 2027, they call it the 2027 solar plexus mutation, but really it's ascension. And so, you should start to feel it because you're starting to see things in the news, but institutions, like we said, it feels hollow. It doesn't feel like we fit anymore. Normal life, or maybe what you knew as normal life, doesn't feel normal. It's much like we say in our, I think it's our entrance, where we say, do you feel like there's something more to life? That's where your intuition's starting to wake up. You're starting to see things aren't as they appear or really as you want anymore. So you're outgrowing this last cycle, which is awesome. And so, again, people are leaving jobs, partners, cities. That's all part of this mutation, which is very much aligned to what Ascension is. And so to me, Ascension and the mutation are one and the same. It's just what they're called, right? And through the lens of human design, and you can see how it all comes to fruition through, again, the geometry and the cycles and whatnot. But here it is. It's happening. So yes, that's the human design lens.
I love the human design lens. And I think there is so much proof out there of different types that we're in this closing cycle, beginning of the new cycle. And there's a lot of astrology that supports this, and there has been for a number of years, but I'm just going to call out the big things that have happened in the last several years. And there will be lots more coming because astrology is never dull. It's always active. But I think one of the big triggers of the shift in our structures of society was really when Pluto entered Capricorn, and it was in there from 2008 to 2023. And Pluto is the planet of death, birth, rebirth, or birth, death, rebirth, however you want to look at it. It's very transformative at a deep soul level. It's no coincidence that it, as a planet, was discovered around the same time as the invention of the atomic bomb. So if you think about what the atomic bomb does, Pluto acts a little bit like that too, where it's really like it blows up life and then it rebuilds for something better. So it's always to create something new and better. So I like to think of it as like the Phoenix energy. Pluto's tied to Scorpio. One of the symbols of Scorpio is the Phoenix. So we love that very transformative energy. Pluto moves very slowly because it's so far away from the Earth. It has a little bit of an odd angled orbit, so it can spend anywhere from 13 to 31 years in a sign. And so it was entered Capricorn. Usually when it enters a sign or a house is when it does its like most stir up. And then we kind of settle into the energy. And then as it leaves a house or sign, it kind of does another big dig up. And what Pluto's doing is it's bringing up all of our fears, all of our limiting beliefs, exposing all of the dark underbelly of life to the light so that we can get rid of it. Ultimately,
was it the financial crisis?
It was
the crash
2008, 2009 when it entered Capricorn was the housing bubble burst.
Yeah.
So we think of Capricorn at a general or more global perspective in astrology. It represents the foundations of our society. So it would be the housing market or all markets. It's government. It's the medical system. It's schools. It's organized religion. Anything that's really creating that foundational structure. And Pluto moving through Capricorn was saying, if this is built on sand, it's crumbling. If it's built on a solid rock foundation, it will last. So we're just going to see what stays and what goes, right? So the housing bubble burst when it entered Capricorn. Lots of other things were happening at that time. It's, again, slow moving. So we get to kind of the end. And in 2020, is when we had a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. So to give you a little reference, Pluto and Saturn meet up in a conjunction about every 33 to 38 years.
I thought you were about to say they meet up at a bar.
Wouldn't that be cute if they did?
Maybe they did.
They did, and they got some fancy drinks.
Yes.
But the last time Pluto and Saturn met up in Capricorn, specifically, was 1518.
Wow.
So this isn't something that happens all the time. That was in January of 2020, and we all know what happened next. So this energy is like karma, and it was a global initiation, and it was a massive time out. So everybody has to be in your own energy. You can't go and be around other people.
Is it safe to say that those who are into astrology or aware of it then probably weren't surprised with what happened?
Completely. I am not a medical astrologer, but I have seen a few out there. And when all of this was happening, when COVID was happening, for years in advance, medical astrologers were talking about some kind of global pandemic. They didn't know what was going to cause it. It's just a potential, but they're like, there's going to be something. And then knowing this conjunction was happening, it was like, okay, there's going to be something with government. Saturn is restriction. So what did the government do? Capricorn being governments and structures, they restricted us. They restricted our mobility. They put boundaries around us. They told us what we could and couldn't do, where we could and couldn't go. This was really a massive timeout for humanity. And while I do know that time frame was really hard for some people, I loved it.
Me too.
It was like my favorite thing.
But we knew when it happened, we knew what was happening.
We knew it was happening.
And so we were comfortable because we knew what was happening. And so we're like, great.
We knew it was a time to look inside. It was a time to do inner work and inner healing. It was a time to start discerning, where does my energy stop and yours begin? Because in our world, we're just mingled all the time, and we're just picking up everybody else's energy. That when you're in your house, maybe just with your family or by yourself like me, I could really tell what was really mine.
Yeah.
What do I need? What makes me feel good, safe, secure, all of that. And we had an interesting experience when it first started, the pandemic and the being at home, because I think neither one of us really knew if we were going to like working from home. Mm-hmm. We'd never done it. It was 5 days a week in the office. I mean, I had an inkling that I probably would like it because I am more of an introvert and I don't like being in large crowds anyway. But I think you were a little bit more like, I don't think I can do this. And then once you did it, you were like, this is amazing.
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, you liked it a whole lot more than you thought.
But I think it was because to your point of the energy and being a projector, absorbing other people's energy can be very exhausting. And so being in my own energy and being able to take a beat was really nice. And so I felt more myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the point of it was to do a big mass awakening. So we talk about, in our first episode, my spiritual journey began really in earnest 10 years ago. But my awakening to the reality of this 3D world, we'll call it the Matrix for lack of a better word, didn't happen until the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
That's when I woke up to, oh my God, all the shadow of the societies of our structure being exposed, and how much fear was being pushed, how much control, how much scarcity and lack, that the agenda was being pushed. I didn't wake up I was a happy little rule follower until then.
Also, how many people were rule followers?
Yeah.
And we were
100% rule follower.
And finally, when we kind of stepped out of that line and could see it for what it was like, holy cow. Wow.
There we go.
So that was a big wake up.
That's a very big one. And you can kind of think of it as the collective dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in another episode. Okay, here's another one. That same year, so the end of 2020, we have a great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. So Jupiter and Saturn meet up about every 20 years. So it's a long time, but it's a fairly common occurrence. However, we were shifting from a cycle where they were meeting up kind of in those earth signs every 20 years for 200 years. This was the first time in 200 years they were meeting up in an air sign in Aquarius. This big shift.
Some big shifts.
Oh, girl, we're not even done yet. We're not even done yet. So now we have this marking of the Age of Aquarius. Now, we'll get into that a little bit, but the age of Aquarius, the ages, so we'll just talk about an age in astrology, roughly 2,500 years. So we were coming out of the age of Pisces, and ages move backwards, kind of like the nodes, where we were moving out of the age of Pisces, which was very much top-down structures. All of the most prominent or most followed religions of the world all started in the age of Pisces. So, Jesus, 2,000 years ago kind of thing. So all of those world religions were started during that time. It was very like, look outside of yourself for answers. Well, and it's debatable in astrology. Lots of astrologers kind of debate when the age of Aquarius started. But I want to say it's not like one shuts off and another one turns on. They sort of overlap. So as we're leaving one, the energy of the new is coming in. So this is overlap. So we're still overlapping energies in 2020. But that end of it was really that symbolic shift of, okay, for the next 200 years, Jupiter and Saturn are going to meet up in air signs. Earth is the slowest element. Air is the fastest element. So we shifted quantum. And while it wasn't overnight, we're going to talk about why it feels even faster and more quantum now. So the age of Aquarius is really about, Aquarian energy is about freedom. It's about innovation. It's about technology. We have a higher level of consciousness. It is about what is the collective evolution, what's the greatest good of humanity, while also valuing the individual experience. That's what's so cool about the Aquarian energy, is it does look to serve humanity, but also your uniqueness, what you as a unique snowflake puzzle piece add to the grand picture of things. It's a really cool energy. But what happened when we were all sent home to work from home? Figured out new technologies. How do we work remotely? Like Microsoft came out with a whole bunch of new tools. All of a sudden, surprise, we have all this stuff ready for your office buildings. Any jobs who could obviously be remote, because there were some who that couldn't. But big bursts of new technology, and we're seeing that even more now because we are now solidly in the age of Aquarius, where things start moving at quantum speeds. But, Aquarian energy is also a little bit rebellious. And I think we felt it during that time. I was like, I'm not doing that. You can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. A little bit of that energy.
They were
in
the
there
bosses
too.
of us, but yes.
While we are stepping into practicing our divine sovereignty. That I'm here to do me, basically.
Yep.
And by doing that, I am in service of everyone else. All right, let's also talk about Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, the traditional, one of the rulers of Aquarius, the modern ruler. Uranus moved into Taurus in 2018, and we're going to get a little taste of Gemini energy from July 7th to November 8th this year. And then next year in 2026, it fully moves into Gemini. But for the last 7 years, it's been transiting through Taurus. So Taurus represents Gaia, Earth. It represents our financial systems. It represents our food supplies, anything with the human body. And now we have this Uranus energy, which is like lightning quick, fast. It does not like being in this slow moving energy of Earth. It creates a lot of volatility. So when we think about our weather patterns since 2018, we think about all the earthquakes, fires, storms. This is Gaia purging, right? She's purging her own shadow as she's ascending, and we are all experiencing that too. We are experiencing a lot of stuff with our food and food supplies, and have been for a long time. So whether that's a shortage, inflation, or now shifting to saying what's in our food. And it's not healthy for us. So what have they been feeding us? And our environment, what are they putting in the skies? What they're putting in our drinking water? All of that's tied to this energy, and we're waking up to that. And some of us are revolting against it in a healthy way. That revolutionary energy. Finances, financial markets.
What?
I mean,
those are so stable, aren't they?
They're so stable, right? This has also been a time of a rise of crypto, which is a technology-based type of currency. So we're going to keep seeing that change and that volatility. And then we're just going to have to sit back, because astrology is really about observing, just sitting back and observing these potentials. So we're going to get a taste of this Uranus in Gemini, like I said, July to November. And we think time is moving fast now. So it's moving into an air sign that it really likes. It feels good. I mean, we're going to do quantum leaps, right?
And I feel like The days are flying by right now.
They're flying by. I thought I would be not having a full-time job. I would like my days are going to drag. They're going to be so slow. Oh my God, I cannot keep up. I don't know what day it is. I'm so busy. I don't know if I like that, but it's,
we feel the same.
We're adjusting.
It's happening and it's, you constantly feel behind. So the idea that this energy is going to be even faster freaks me out just a little bit because I can barely keep up.
It's true. I think if you are dominant earth and water in your natal chart, it's going to feel incredibly, incredibly fast and really hard to keep up. It's okay. You'll adjust. We all adjust. We're adaptable. We're all ascending. Don't worry about the long term, but water and earth move a little slower. I am dominant fire, and those that are dominant fire and air, we like to move fast. But we've been operating in earth and water our whole lives. Wow. So even for us, it's going to feel crazy fast. We'll probably adapt a little faster.
You will.
But it's still going to be incredibly fast for us because we've never lived in that energy in this lifetime kind of thing. I like this little tagline of Uranus and Taurus really says, wake up to remember we are the stewards of the earth, not the overlords of the earth.
Love that.
We are here to take care of Gaia because we love her, not because we're obligated to, not because somebody tells us we do, just a natural feeling of, I want her to be happy and healthy because I love her. And she is me and I am her. That kind of energy is what we're moving through.
And I think about the chemtrails and the poisoning of the grounds, the earth, the glyphosates and all of that, and how we have really been poisoning Gaia for a very, very long time. And so to me, what that says is we're moving away from that.
We are. I'm very excited.
We'll not only be helping Gaia purge all of that, but we then get the benefit of that as well.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
More to go. 2021 to 2023, we had our eclipse axis with Scorpio and Taurus, which was really about the life, death, and transformation axis of the zodiac. So, a lot of shadow coming up and a lot of opportunity for rebirth. Grounding in that 5D energy. Now, also 2023 to 2025, we had the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So this was all about finding your authenticity and your courage and standing up for you and your own divine sovereignty, letting go of codependency, letting go of surface level harmony, because I don't want to rock the boat. I don't really like conflict, so I'm just not going to say anything. Now it's to say I'm going to embrace healthy conflict because that's the most authentic way of living. It's about owning your energy and not outsourcing it.
I love that.
I like this idea of be the damn dragon. Be your dragon.
Yeah, I love that too.
All right, now let's really get into Pluto entering the age of Aquarius. So Pluto entered Aquarius fully. There's a little test drive in 2023, a little test drive in 2024, 2025. It is solidly in Aquarius until 2044. So we have a good long time. So like I said at the beginning, when Pluto first enters a sign is when we see the biggest resurfacing of all the junk that we need to get rid of. All of the shadow of our collective. Personal will come up as well. Over the next 20-ish years, if you have any personal planets in Aquarius, your sun has 5.
My son's a big Aquarian.
By the end of this transit, they will be deeply transformed in a very, very positive way. But sometimes that transformation requires some kind of ego death and some type of rebirth then to get there. So this is a generational shift. This is the biggest sign that we've moved into this 5D consciousness, moving into it, whether we are conscious of that move or not. This is the sign of quantum leaps. So when I say time is mutable, it is not linear. This is our galactic evolution. So we talk about our 10 extra strands of DNA coming online and how they are tied to ETs and extraterrestrials out in our universe. This is our time during the next 20 years where we will be stepping into our place in the galactic space. So that galactic council is welcome. They're ready. They're ready for us. These good ETs are ready to welcome us in. We are part of their family. And now they're okay, let's see what you got.
And if y'all are, anyone watching is wait, what? And you guys have been hearing the news is starting to sprinkle in talk about ETs,
UFOs.
They've been around for a very, very long time. Our government has known for a very, very long time. And the propaganda has taught us to fear ETs. And so if you do have a general fear of when we do actually get to have contact, then that's some shadow work. I would work on that, because they have been supporting us and are out there watching and doing whatever they can without true interference for a very long time. And so I think we're really excited.
Totally so
for
excited.
when we can finally connect with them, and they function at a higher vibration. So that's also part of the ascension, and we have to vibrate higher in order to be able to have that direct connection. Some people already see them and talk to them, and there are people that online have direct conversations. You can find them on YouTube. I follow a couple of them, but know that is also a big piece of this ascension, is to step into that galactic family, which is awesome.
I mean, yeah, they're our family too. They're our family. So just think of them that way. Like, you get a whole bunch of new relatives.
And we come from that too, that space too. We've lived lives as other beings. And so you may have a direct connection with one type of being over another because of that.
Yeah. We'll talk about starseeds. It's a fun topic, but not today.
Not today.
In that space of, so these are just a handful of some major transits. It's not all that's happening. The North Node has now moved into Pisces, and the South Node's in Virgo. So there's a new dynamic of spirituality and balancing that with our daily lives. It's also one of the health axis. So we are stepping into the higher octave of Pisces energy, which is compassion, love, unity. And we are releasing the lower octaves of Virgo, which is a lot of worry, anxiety, stress, perfectionism, judgmental, over-criticizing. These are the lower vibrations of Virgo. Virgo is a beautiful energy too. But the idea of this is time to let go of that and to lean into that unity consciousness. And also to take our spiritual intuition, those intuitional hits that we're getting, and bring them into our daily lives. So that is living in alignment, doing the thing that lights you up, following those little nudges, bringing more joy in, starting to be more creative. And we're in this cycle. It's about an 18-month cycle. So we can lean into that energy as well. Oh, there's one more that's happening. I'm telling you guys, like, it's crazy. We also have briefly Neptune and Saturn entering Aries. And then next year they will move fully into that energy. So this is where going to be like all fire. Our outer planets will be fire and air versus they were earth and water for a long time. So this is, again, another inkling that it's time to speed up. We've spent many years. Neptune spends about 14 years in a sign. So it's been in Pisces, its home planet, for a long time. I think since, 14 years ago. And that's where we were really kind of figuring out our spirituality and dissolving and leaning into illusions. And now with it entering into Aries, and again, we just get a taste, we get a little preview. That's now putting spirituality into action. That's, again, that divine sovereignty mentality. Saturn spends about 2.5 years in a sign. So it's wrapping up its time in Pisces as well and moving into Aries briefly this year. It's in Aries now. And the last time Saturn was in Aries was 1996. So you can kind of think back over 29, 30 years ago. What was that energy like? If you can remember. I can't remember. So
I was a young thing.
Yeah, I was a young thing, and it was whatever. But, that was this idea of bringing, really stepping into the higher octave of the Aries energy, because the Aries can be immature and impulsive. And with Saturn, yes, it can, as you know.
I know.
It's bringing into this now more of the authority within our own lives and bringing that patience to Aries that it sometimes needs and the maturity that Aries needs. So I think it's going to be a really interesting fit. But again, we're just going to sit back and observe and see what happens. But lots of shifts, constant shifts that is really pushing us forward, evolving us for the better. So these are these signs that I'm like, guys, there's no denying, like, it's here. And when you look out into the world and all the craziness that's out there, it's signs of that too. I think what's happening not only in the US, but globally. So you just look everywhere. What you see, especially in my opinion, how I see a lot of the Doge activities. I know that can be triggering for some people, but I'm not paying attention to the details. of it, what I'm paying attention to is the amounts of ridiculous money that are, being exposed and have been used in corrupt ways. So, I mean, we're talking trillions and trillions of dollars. So what does that say to me? Again, I'm not paying attention to the details. I'm looking at it as saying, oh, money's made up. Mm-hmm. It's not even real. We give it a value of realness. Right. And that there's so much of it. Like, to me, this just says there is no lack or scarcity when it comes to money. There's plenty of money out there. We all can have as much abundance as we want. There's no have and have nots. We can all have it when we shift into that frequency of, oh, I'm always taken care of. There's plenty of money. There is no lack and there is no scarcity. So that's what is triggered in me or what I think about when I see these things. I'm not dwelling on the corruption being exposed. It needs to be. That's part of other people's awakening. We've kind of already gone through our own to see that. Now I'm focused on this is just proof that there's so much abundance in the world and there's no need to worry.
Yeah, I think if I could offer any advice for anyone that is going through their awakening right now to that point is, don't pay too much attention to the details or the news. Actually, if you watch the news, I would turn it off, because what it does is it's trying to invoke fear, and that keeps you in a lower vibration. So it's going to be really hard to ascend or move into 5D if you're constantly in that fear and this idea of money or lack. And that has been the MO for a very, very, very long time. And the best news is we're moving away from that. It's going away. And so if you start to see things, you're like, oh God, what will we do if that's gone? Something new and something better will take its place. I will this is stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway, because Molly brought it up on a podcast. She was talking about Joann fabrics, and I'm obsessed with Joann's because I would go pretty much every week because I love to craft and do different things. And they shut down our local store, and I was devastated. And then found out, well, actually they're bankrupt and they're shutting down every store. And so while I'm going to mourn the loss of my sweet Joann fabrics where I got my stuff, there are still other places to go to get what I need, or new places will come and evolve, and how we do things will evolve. And so there may be something in your life, silly like that you may have to mourn and let go of, but it's okay because something better will take its place. And so you just have to be patient for that to come about.
Oh, 100%. I think I'm going to come back to that thought, but I will say, if you are someone who likes to watch a lot of news, if you feel okay watching it, keep watching it. That's fine. If you feel triggered and find yourself in fear and lack, or angry or frustrated, all of that, it's okay to take a pause, maybe not watch as much. I actually stopped watching all traditional news in 2015, not because I was so spiritually awake, but it was an election season, and I just really could not listen to anything about politics. I'm not a political person. Just didn't want to hear it. So I set the intention at that time, and I have never gone back. Like I set the intention at the time. So this is a fun trick. So I would just try it. See if it works for you. The intention I set was that anything I need to know will find me. And it did. It came through, came a lot from her, that researcher. It would come from the people in my life. It would come through, I'm just scrolling through my social media feed, which is full of astrology and animals, but somehow something might pop up in that feed where I go, oh, what's this? And I might dig a little bit deeper on my own, or if I would hear something just in passing that would make me go look something up. So from that perspective, it has worked for 10 years, people. I know what I need to know because it finds me, and I don't know what I don't need to know.
But you also use discernment, because even stuff on social, again, there are a lot of people out there. There's fear mongering, but there's also the opposite where you're like, I don't know if that's true. So whatever information you get, use your discernment, use your intuition, maybe do a little research if you're up for it. But I agree. I stopped watching the news years and years and years ago, and I get the tidbits I need. Again, I'm a researcher. I love information, but I knew I would either go to alternative sources or dig in and listen to my intuition and whether or not that felt true. And there are people out there that there are some things that they will say that I'm like, yep, spot on. And other things that exact person says that I'm like, no, I'm not in alignment with that. And that's okay. And I don't berate or belittle them, but right now we have a very mob mentality. And so if you can step out of that mob, and that goes back to being your unique, authentic self, and go your own path and your own journey, you'll be much better off.
Yeah.
As we go through this, you can make it as easy or as hard as you want
As you want. And I think it's a good reminder that time is multidimensional, and there are a lot of timelines out there. I think we're all on Ascension timelines right now, but not every timeline is exactly the same. And you could be sitting talking to somebody who's on a different timeline. So if someone that you know is stuck in fear and lack and you're not, it's okay. It's like there's a glass wall. Like you can still visibly see them having that experience, but that doesn't have to be your experience. This is what Ascension is, and that 5D of kind of popping in and out of it is I can live in a 3D world and still have a 5D experience. So I don't live in fear. I don't live in lack, but I can see it in the people around me out in the world even, that's the experience they're having. They're on a different timeline than I'm on. And that's okay. They'll all ascend in their own way.
And if Dana's tripping you out by talking about different timelines, go watch the movie. I think something like Everything All at Once.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
That is very trippy, but it's a great example of showing different timelines,
multidimensional selves.
And I would also say I think it's Spider-Man and the multiverse is pretty legit too. So believe it or not, they one of the laws I think is that you have to be told before things happen, and they've disguised a lot of truth in movies because you think, oh well, that can't be true because it's a movie, but in fact there's a lot of movies that really share a lot of truth. So The Matrix, disclosure. Legit, The Truman Show, all showing you
we're in a movie. We're in a simulation.
Yes. So
now we have to remember that we are in control of our own simulation because we've been living with someone else in control of it and allowing them to be in control of it. And now we take our sovereignty back and say, no, I'm going to be, if this is my movie, we talked about main character energy. This is my movie, then I'm going to make it however and amazing I want it to be.
Yep. Exactly. Brought it all the way around. Was
did.
there any other highlights you wanted to call?
No, that was it for all the astrology because there was a lot, and I'm sorry if I bored you. So there we go.
No, that was really good. I think we're at
time.
About time.
Yeah.
So is there anything we want to close with?
I think I would just like to say, in a more practical tip, how do you start living in 5D? Like if you can do, like we just talked a whole lot of stuff. What can you do personally to start raising your vibration? And that's going to be doing the inner work. Not always fun, but the more healing you can do with your own traumas, your inner child work, the more you practice with that, that's how you raise your frequency. You don't have to berate yourself if you're not always happy every single day. I'm not happy every single day.
Just don't berate yourself.
No, don't judge
It's
yourself for it. It's a lower vibration. But that idea of start simple, start small. There's a lot of healers out there. Find one that you trust that might be able to help you on this journey. You can
a life coach.
Or a life coach. You can do it on your own too, but it's recognizing what triggers us, recognizing that anything in the external world is a reflection of our internal world. So go inside first and say, like I did in traffic. I was mad at everybody else and I had to go, whoa, it's not them. There's something in me. Okay, let me peel back the layers and get to that. And that's a simple example. I've done a lot of healing on the inner stuff. And we're in a cool time if you're starting this journey because things are being healed in a snap.
A lot faster.
So fast.
I think karma's gone or disappeared. There's no more karma.
So fast. So to start really with yourself. That's where all of this starts, is with the individual. So
journaling is really good for that too. And even if you're not a writer, you'd be surprised if you can get things out. It's amazing how helpful and healing that can be. Journaling. Protect your energy. That's the other thing too. Be mindful of yourself and others. So I thought we would close for an affirmation.
I like it.
For the journey, because we're all on it. And so if maybe this will help you as you're going. So I trust the unfolding of my path, even when I don't understand it. I am safe to grow, to question, to become. Every step I take is leading me back to who I truly am.
That's beautiful.
And should I pull a card for everyone?
Yeah, let's just pull a card. Maybe a word or an image that we can focus on this week. Something that will help us. Whatever message from from Gaia. I like these cards for Gaia. So what message does Gaia have for us today? that we might, meditate on or focus on.
All right. Let's see. Aww. The card is happiness.
There's 2 dolphins on it.
And there's 2 dolphins. And we won't even get into dolphins and how amazing and special they are. But I love this because it's all about happiness. So, and sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent real quick with happiness. So my husband maybe it was this morning, said, are you happy? And I said, yeah, I am happy. And he said, because I talked about him giving up coffee, and he goes, well, won't that make you less happy? And I kind of laughed and I said, well, I enjoy coffee, but things should not make or break my happiness. So the happiness should be within, not based on tangible or physical things. It's really about, and think about it, what makes you happy? It should be deep, right? It should be just, I'm alive. I can breathe. I have food. I have clothing. Like, it's the simple things, but don't get caught up in, well, I need $1 million or I need a better job, or because those things don't make you happy. It's a choice. Happiness is a choice. So how do you choose to be happy today? So that's what I would say.
I love it. That's fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks guys for joining us. It was great to see you. And if you have any questions, we have an email. I think it's in the show notes. You guys can shoot us anything. And if there's any topics that you're very curious about, shoot us those and we'll cover those as well.
Yeah, love it.
Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks for catching up with us on the Cosmic Catchup. If today's episode sparked something in your soul, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share the magic with your fellow seekers. You can hang with us on Instagram at the Cosmic Catchup for behind-the-scenes updates and more cosmic goodness.
And if you're feeling the call to go deeper, we offer personal guidance through our individual practices. All the details are in the show notes. And if it's aligned, we trust you'll feel it. Until next time, keep following the magic. The content we share reflects our personal experiences, insights, and opinions. We're not medical, legal, or financial professionals, and we encourage you to always do your own research, trust your intuition, and seek guidance from qualified experts when needed. Take what resonates and leave the rest. This journey is yours to explore.